And of course, to open up the show, Hargeet Chani, it's going to be the question very simply is, did Phil Spencer and Team Xbox deliver another killer show? And we're going to get your thoughts, your theories, your score, your picks for game of the show or games of the show, as I could not pick one. But I got to tell you, just looking back at one of the big surprises was Clockwork Revolution. And all I can say is that In Exile has cooked with that game. We saw that a couple of years ago. We were hoping and waiting to have it show up at an event. It did. The only thing we did not get, sadly, was the release date. It simply ended with it will release in due time. What does that mean? Does that mean 2026? Because I'm going to tell you this right now. If it is 2026, I don't know where they put these games. And I know it sounds ridiculous. I know you've heard us talk about this. But for 2026, we're already slated Call of Duty, Fable, Halo, Gears, and Forza. That is without looking even further down the line. That is just the first 5 games that have basically been confirmed. So I know what you're saying. Boom, hold on. Who said Halo? Well, they didn't specifically say Halo. Phil Spencer said they had a game that's been a long-time franchise, and we all know that the 25th anniversary of Master Chief and Halo is next year. So that Halo Combat Evolved remake from the ground up is probably what they're talking about. So I guess I'll take the risk and walk the razor's edge, if you will. Those are already 5 games, and if you add Clockwork Revolution to it, my God, ladies and gentlemen. So I actually still think that Clockwork could be a surprise release. Maybe it's as we get closer, to the fall, out of the summer, there's some sort of a dev direct, a special one, an unannounced one. But Hargeet, let's get again. I know that you've had a lot of work to do. Obviously, you were at all the play days, but I do want to get your. I know that you probably at one point or another rewatched the showcase.
I just finished rewatching it. Yeah,
there you go. So now that it is fresh in your mind, we have not had an opportunity to sit down and talk it out. Get your thoughts, get your theories, your opinions, your score. Yeah, man, break it down.
Yeah, so one of the parts of why Boom is saying that is like, what, weren't you there for the Fan Fest? Yeah, the problem was I was running it, so I kind of didn't really pay attention to that.
He was the man behind the curtain, literally behind the curtain.
So I got snippets here and there. I think the biggest thing for me was hearing the crowd reactions to certain announcements. Right, it was like, oh, okay, that one really resonated, right? And so I'm sure there's already like clips. People have certainly taken, videos with their phones and put them up. But yeah, as far as like a rating, like you said, this is sort of a down year, and it's still crazy, right? This is a down year for Xbox, and it's still crazy, right? And you should just keep expecting this. Literally, this is like a down year, and yet it's still a pretty nuts show that had all sorts of new world premieres. They had Japanese content. They had European content. They had a lot of their own stuff. It was all over the place. It was crazy. I'll also add in that Summer Game Fest, I thought was a pretty good one. The beginning of that was just crazy. It just kept coming and coming. It was great. And then it sort of had a lull, and then it kind of ended kind of big, right? For those who have watched it, hopefully they've all watched it. So I thought that was pretty good. Of the PlayStation one, I'll say that the 007 was the standout for me. And they've done a lot more with Summer Game Fest, and then they had a whole IO interactive showcase, invite only showcase thing, which apparently just went over the same stuff, so it wasn't really that much of a thing, but whatever. From an Xbox showcase perspective, I'll still give this a 9 because I'm going to give the other one sort of a B+. So I think Summer Game Fest was pretty good. I think it was in that range. But this was definitely a step up. It's not to the level of what we had last year, but then you seldom get something that crazy. That might end up being next year's, by the way, just because of the lineup alone and all the stuff we haven't heard about yet, right? But that is so I'll still give it a 9. It was really good. The standout really was the hardware. It was the new interface. That's finally been announced. There's been so many rumors in the background. so much, speculation and, hearing this, like this and that from other people, whatever. Right. But now we actually see it. Right. And people are starting to actually, touch the device to see what it's capable of and what it looks like. And so far I don't think I've heard a negative. The only negative hint is what's the price. That's it. I don't like anybody I've talked to has been like, this is it's really good. Like, so even skeptics are like, oh, this is actually pretty good. So that's what I'm hearing so far. I'm sure somebody will eventually say this is the worst thing that's ever happened because it plays PlayStation games. That's fine. Whatever. That's their problem. But the people who have actually put hands on have all come away liking it. They've liked it. There's
and that's a wide range of people, Hargeet. You're talking about Paris Lily. You're talking about we saw stuff from Jez Corden. We saw that they reported on it. We've heard from the Iron Lords. Destin Legary said that he liked it quite a bit. He basically said it's going to change gaming as we know it. I have the only thing that I have heard the negativity, and it's from the trolls, folks. So please don't feed the trolls. Just let them just keep walking by. Is that it doesn't play Xbox games natively? Listen, folks.
Yeah, we'll get into that piece, but even like Linus Tech Tips, right? He's had hands on with it.
I watched his video as well.
Rave review. It like everybody seems to like it. I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. Usually somebody's like, right, screw off, right? No, all of it, it's been pretty consistently. Everybody seems to be good with it. Like, okay, so maybe this is good. We'll see what they do with pricing. I still think it'll be expensive for what the hardware is, but we'll see. Maybe they have some good deal going on there. So we'll see what we get there. As for the gaming, this is the part that's interesting, right? So there's been some mistakes, perhaps, whatever it is, but Jez had started noticing, and he's put out articles on this, that they're starting to see 360 games show up on the PC store, right? So it's always been a thing that they were going to try to bring the catalog forward. We've all heard that, right? Forward compatibility. They're going to try to bring that, OG Xbox all the way up, right? To somehow bring that catalog to the new devices. And this is an Xbox now, right? So the question is, can you play natively your 360 games, your Xbox One games, etc.? I don't think that's going to be available at launch. It's too close, right? So I think that's something maybe this time next year, right? It might be there, or maybe they'll have a preview program for it next year about this time to start testing like the capability, right? But I think it's coming. I think there will be native capability, right? There's nuances to it, right? Those were never designed to be portable, right? So you 360 doesn't have expectations for you to have like a save state. These are things you have to kind of worry about, right? So OG Xbox certainly had no concept of these things, right? So you have to kind of worry about these things of like, hey, if I shut it down, what happens, right? So they'll have to play through that, but thankfully, right, they have some good technology there. They have the virtual machine. They can just save state the virtual machine, and hopefully that works and bring it back, right? So they have some potential there. This is like quick resume. That's how that works, right? So there's a lot of cool potential there, but they're working it, and they're working that capability. And now because this is an Xbox, it's not a PC for people who want to just say it's a PC. It is literally officially called an Xbox.
Yes.
They technically could bring the library there because it is an Xbox, right? The library is associated with Xbox, right? So it's not just say, hey, your homebrew desktop that you put together, your standard Lenovo laptop that you buy. Yeah, that may not get this backwards compatibility for all the OG Xbox stuff, right? So for 360s and OG games and Xbox One, but the ones labeled Xbox, like this device, could, right? And so I think that will come in the future. I don't think it'll be there at launch unless they hit some crazy milestones. Very unlikely, but I think it's coming. I would expect that to be something that comes probably sometime next year, maybe a little later, right? But sometime in that range. And that essentially is your next console. That's what's going to happen. This is the journey, right? As I've been saying, this is a journey. This is going to be the first part of that journey. And eventually you're going to get to a point where basically Windows and console kind of merge to the point where you have a very purpose-built thing that doesn't show you any Windowsy stuff, right? This basically does that. It takes away all the Windowsy stuff. However, it lets you put it back,
Yes.
I don't think the console device will do that, right? So when Xbox puts out the next Xbox, I think they're going to skimp on that part where you can bring it back. I think they're going to say, no, it's all that locked, but it is going to have the ability to bring those stores in. It's going to have the ability to be a bit more Windows-like. The fun part's going to be, how do they handle Game Pass Ultimate, because it has online access? Are they going to get rid of that paywall? They're going to have to if they're going to go Windows, right? So these are fun things that comes with that whole change, but we will see what they do with that. As far as the device itself, it looks interesting. We'll see how that goes. I'm interested to see when they actually put it out. Also, along with that, they kind of announced the launch date of Hollow Knight Silksong will be with that device whenever that happens, right? So just it happens to be like mixed in with that. So we had a lot of little things there. As far as the other announcements from my perspective, from Xbox, it's there's a lot of games there. Clockwork looks really cool. Outer Worlds 2 also looks really cool. The surprise announcement, I thought it was going to be Forza. It turned out to be another Obsidian game is coming out this year in Grounded 2. I don't know, wow. And like there's so many games they like went through that, like Beast of Reincarnate. They had Resonance, A Plague Tale Legacy. They just
which, by the way, they fooled me good. I was sitting in my seat screaming, "Oh my God, here comes Rise Son of Rome 2." I swear to God, it looked like that.
And then we have another game coming out from first party this year in Keeper from Double Fine.
Yes,
which isn't even the main game they're working on, but what the heck? Another just crazy little game. You gotta love it. And then the Call of Duty. I'm trying to figure out what the heck they were showing me, right? You knew Call of Duty had to be announced, right? Obviously, it had to be and that was the last thing they had. So they ended it with Call of Duty. I think Santa, you suggested that's what they end it with. But God, that trailer did not feel like Call of Duty at all.
No.
Like, what is this? At first, I'm like, is this Inception with like this world bending and like what the heck is going on here, right? And like it just kept getting stranger.
It kept getting weirder as the trailer went on, dude.
Right?
Honestly, it did.
So I don't know. I'm not sure what to specifically point out as like the best thing there. I think the hardware is probably the best thing, just because some of those things will come to everybody, not the entire back hat, but like the ability to have even your desktop just boot into an Xbox UI is going to be fantastic if it can bring in all your other stores. It just gives you that simple interface right off the bat. I think that's probably the biggest announcement. From a games perspective, I think Clockwork kind of really showed up here and told you what it's about. I think it's looking really good.
Yeah.
But I don't want to sidestep any of the other ones. There was so many crazy announcements. High on Life 2 looks crazy. Like, looks awesome.
What's funny, Hargeet, when that first started, I mean, who's with me in the room here that who did not think that was Sunset Overdrive 2? Like, it was now you're sliding all over the place. Like, I'm like, whoa, are you kidding me? Like, they got me good, but you know what? High on Life, again, how that didn't leak, dude, is unbelievable.
I know, right? The next big moment that everybody just went crazy in the room was, of course, the Final Fantasies coming to Xbox. Now I have not bought 16 yet, so I will buy. The beauty of this is it's Play Anywhere, so I will pick it up for Xbox, which will give it to me on PC and Xbox.
Right.
So I'll do that, and then Final Fantasy VII Remake. Oh, also, of course, they just stealth drop it right here. It is. Today you can pick it up, and then they have remake coming sometime later. It
said winter, so I would imagine somewhere it could be like a December release, possibly.
It'd have to be, right? Because winter starts technically December 21st, right? So so it's like, okay, but hey, whatever. Like, if that's where they want to release it, that's where they want to release it. It doesn't matter as far as a release time, because it's already been out for other platforms anyway. So it's just bringing it here. Yeah, it was a crazy show. I think the entirety from my perspective anyways, of this whole E3 light, whatever you want to call it, has been pretty good. I think it was a pretty good year. punctuated with certainly with the Xbox showcase. But we still have to see stuff from Nintendo. I don't know when we're going to see that, but they'll have something that tells us their fall. It may be that what we have is what we have, but I think they have more to show us. But yeah, this has been a pretty cool year. So the Playday stuff, I mean, you guys weren't there, but there was a lot of cool things to play there. We got a lot of cool interviews for background and all that stuff, and got to see hands-on and some NDA stuff on, you know, some of the Capcom things, some other things. So it was pretty good. It was pretty good. So overall, I think it was a pretty good year. RE9 got, you know, announced, and you know,
which has been confirmed to be both third person and first person.
It's not two, sorry. Onimusha, what was it? Way of something, whatever the new one is. But that looks pretty good, right? So, but yeah, it's a pretty good year. But yeah, that's so far my take. I'd say give it a 9. I think the biggest announced really is the hardware, which shouldn't be, right. It should be the games, but and they did have a lot of games, but I think it's the hardware. That is a big deal.
Yeah, you know, I mean, look, I think when you just take a step back and you look at how the show went down, it was anchored really well. I know that there are some people in the community that kind of felt a little, I don't want to use the word slighted. I think a lot of people thought that the end of the show with Call of Duty was a weird one. But folks, it's Call of Duty. It's Black Ops 7, right? Like this is something that they have to announce that, right? That's not something they could skimp on, because it's a big deal for them. As you know, as a matter of fact, speaking of Black Ops 7, it is the most viewed Black Ops in history. I have the tweet somewhere. I know that it blew 6 out of the water by millions. How many people saw? Wow. And again, I know you keep hearing, "Oh, Call of Duty's dead because they have rabbits."
Strange, right? Yeah. It's like, I don't even know what I saw. That's what happens.
You know what? I wasn't sure, and again, this is just me looking at when I was watching it live, because it was so odd, and it was through the way it was, you know, crafted. I wasn't sure if I was watching the new Splinter Cell. I wasn't sure if I was watching potentially a new Alpha Protocol. And then when it said Black Ops 7, I'm like, that does not look like Black Ops to me. And I play Black Ops 6 pretty much every day. But it is the sequel to 2, one of the most popular Black Ops in the series. And I was fine with where it was. I didn't care that it ended the show. And of course, it went right into the
They realized it too, by the way. They understood that didn't resonate.
It didn't hit with everyone. It didn't.
Yeah. But I mean, we need to get used to the fact that Call of Duty is now a permanent fixture of the Xbox stage. There's just no way around it. It's too big a game. It's going to be there. So you should just expect it.
I mean, listen, it's a game that you're going to get every year from one team or another, whether it be Infinity Ward, whether it be Treyarch, whether it be any of the other 2 or 3 studios that they have working on it. And that's going to be in Game Pass. You're going to get the $100 edition for $27 if you don't want to buy the game. And it's part of your service. And like I said, folks, if you just, it's a AAA bomb every year guaranteed. I don't know why people would be upset with that or have a problem with it. I certainly don't. I have re-fallen in love with the brand. Like literally before we went live, I just hit Prestige Master level 80. And again, that's low on a totem pole to some others. I mean, I've seen people that I've played with that are at like Prestige Master 356. Which is like, oh my God, that's ridiculous.
Did you expect out of nowhere to see Game Freak of all companies make that?
No.
Was it Beast of Reincarnation?
Dude,
like, for those who don't know, Game Freak is the one that does the
Pokemon company,
the Pokemons,
man.
right? The Pokemons, right? And you're like, they're making this? Wait a second.
Oh my God.
Wow. I just thought, wow, that was a crazy show, man. That was crazy.
It was. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, there was something for everyone. Again, no matter what console you play on, there were games for you. This weekend was a giant celebration of games. And again, like I said, if you just go based on Keeley's own polls, and his polls are probably some of the biggest in the industry, Xbox has won for the 3rd time in a row. And that's not surprising. They just continue to have game after game after game, and not only are they delivering in first party, they are delivering in indie partnerships, second party and third party partnerships that seem to not only litter the stage, but also litter Xbox Game Pass, giving you the best bang for your buck. And that was on display. I think almost, and again, not all of the games that were shown are Xbox Game Pass, which is fine, but a very large portion of the games shown are going to be in your service, and that's a pretty big deal. So again, hardware surprise for Hargeet. He gave it a 9. I settled in on a 9. If you didn't hear, I originally gave it a 9 a couple days ago, and I'm still standing strong with a 9 out of 10. I don't think it was better than last year, but like I was telling Hargeet in the green room, last year's showcase was a bit of an anomaly. And it was one of those showcases that you get once every decade. And to be honest with you, really hard to follow. And I'm not saying that they didn't come close, because I think that this show was damn good. But last year's show had a lot of stuff. Now, again, I you know what? Before I give the mic over to Asante, I do want to ask you a question, because one of my criticisms from this showcase, and again, this is not being negative, this is just I was disappointed that these things weren't there. And those things that I'm talking about was State of Decay 3. I thought we would get some sort of an update, maybe even a release window, even if it was next year, right? And that's another game, which, by the way, I didn't add to that list. That's 6 games, because if it's not this year, it's next year, and that's nuts, right?
It may not be, Boom. It may not be, and the reason isn't because it might not be ready. It's just they don't have this to. That's exactly it. We Matt Booty was asked, why are you putting all these games? We got a lot of release dates, right?
In October is loaded,
in October.
Dude. Yeah.
And they're like, well, why did you do that? He's like, well, I can't move it. I don't have space. I can't move it out. I don't have space. That's how crazy their lineup is. They have so much to give. so many games. But that's it. We don't know. We don't know what they're going to do. But they will now have to. And they realize, by the way, that Expedition 33 and Oblivion coming out at the same time might not have been the greatest idea, though they warned. Is it Sandfall? I think is the company. Right?
Sandfall Interactive, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That, hey, by the way, we're going to be releasing at this time. Are you okay with it? They're like, yeah, we're okay with it. I was like, oh, fine, fair enough. So it may have not been, but so they're recognizing that is a thing too. So they have to be careful of where they put things along with their partners. So it's just so much of a balancing act now, and they're gonna have to put things and push them out. That's just the way it is. So like sometimes, you even if it's ready to go, it's gonna have to wait.
Yeah. I mean, listen. So if the question I want to pose to you before we bring in Asante is, what wasn't there that you were hoping to get an update on for you as the gamer?
Well, I was expecting to see Forza Horizon, which apparently is coming out in like the first quarter of next year. Like,
yes,
holy crap.
Which is bonkers. Absolutely bonkers.
So that's what I was expecting to see. What was I expecting to see beyond that was any of their I guess unannounced bigger projects, but I guess still we got Keeper. We got Grounded 2 out of nowhere, right? So yes, it could have been something more, maybe AAA level, but ultimately, who cares? I spent several hundred hours in Grounded, so I can easily see spending another 100 in freaking Grounded 2. That's a big game, whether you like it or not, right? It doesn't matter as far as like the budget size of it, whatever. But it looks better. It looks like they've added a lot more capability there. So I'm interested to see what they do with that. So we'll see what happens there. Keeper looks like a nice little, indie level type game, but it can't be indie because obviously it's published by Microsoft. So
right.
It looks like it's in that vein. Again, I love those kind of games too. So and Double Fine's awesome. So looking forward to see what that is. But that would have been it. Was like get something from one of the bigger sides, some massive surprise would have been awesome. But again, there was enough there that I'm like, this is a good enough show. They had a lot of first party stuff, whether we remember it or not. But there was a lot of first party stuff, and on top of that, they had a lot of third party stuff, and a lot of it is coming to Game Pass day and day.
Yes.
So It was an amazing show. And that is one of the keys that even if you say some of the games from the PlayStation show were good, it's like, yeah, okay, cool. Now I have to spend $70-$80. Which one of those am I going to actually spend the $780? Like I'm there mostly for 007. I think I'm pretty convinced that one's going to be good for me, so I'll probably buy that. But like the other one's like, well, we'll see, right? And whereas here it's like, oh, it's just there. I just get to play it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, great points of view. Asante, let's bring you in, because obviously following Hargeet is a bit difficult, because he did, drop some major bombs. You know what's funny? We roomed together, right? Kay and I, and we literally went to the airport, and both of our same terminal and everything. It's crazy, and we never had a chance to actually sit down and talk about the fucking showcase.
We never talked about it. That's right.
We were literally running for our lives, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't mean anyone was chasing us. And you know something? We were lucky, because where we were in Los Angeles, 15 minutes away where the riots were. Thankfully, we did not get hurt or chased or harassed. It was, 15-minute drive, which could have been a couple of miles. Too close for comfort for me anyway. But what were your highlights, lowlights, and what blew you away at the Xbox Game Showcase, dude?
I mean, like Hargeet already mentioned it, but you guys know me. I'm the tech guy here, so
of course you are.
Obviously, the handheld is what I was excited for, and I'm still excited for it. I've been chatting with folks in my Discord. Shout out to the Discord fam. And the conversations have been hot and heavy, and it's very interesting. While we like. And this is not slander or anything like that, but I would say it is very impressive that a company that basically will not beat the Switch in any way, shape, or form, but somehow the Switch has come out, it's released, it's a great device, people are loving it, people are having conversations about it, but this device that's been released, that's been also talked about, is also getting a lot of attention, right? You would think with the Switch 2 announcement, which, by the way, a topic we'll talk about, selling every copy, selling all the copies, but somehow there's still room to talk about this device and how it was shown off and what it's purported to be and all of this. I say that is very, very commendable from Asus and Xbox to basically even get a foot in the door while Switch 2 week is going around, right?
That's a great point of view, dude. And you know something? They didn't just grab it, dude. You got to remember, and I'm glad you brought. That's a phenomenal point. I didn't even consider that. Let's second topic of the show, folks. We got to get into Switch 2. I finally got my stuff set up. The kids got theirs. They're very excited. I got all my peripherals. I've been playing the H out of a Mario Kart World, which I'm about to finish the 50cc race. All of them I've placed first. Now I got to work on the 100 and then the 150 to unlock all the characters. But considering how big the Switch is, and we're going to get into those numbers second half of the show, you're right, Kay, because let's call a spade a spade. The zeitgeist could have only been the Switch, but it wasn't.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it should only be the Switch, but it isn't. Right? Because the Switch is the known commodity. It's the big elephant in the room. It's the one that
pretty much,
right? It's the biggest selling device out there, and it's sold as we've heard, right? Which we'll talk about. But still, somehow, some way, this thing over here is also still part of the conversation, which I say is notable and is quite impressive, right? So I loved that they showed games. They showed a bunch of games. Like, they had fighting games. They had games that people wanted on their platform for a long time. They had a game from Game Freak. Oh, by the way, this is not the first time Game Freak has had a game on Xbox. They have actually had a bunch of games on Xbox. Not a bunch,
I know that.
They have released a few games on Xbox. People may recall Tembo, the badass elephant from Xbox One.
Oh, I
that is a Game Freak game. Yes, yeah, on Xbox, right? They've done that from time to time. But no, I too was excited to see that a Game Freak game looked kind of cool, right? It may not be my bag necessarily, but it's like you're looking at the vision of what a Pokemon game would look like if the Switch had a bit more in the tank. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, it kind of has that Switch, that Pokemon energy, because obviously these are the guys that make them, right? I always thought that they did a really good job showing that game off. In addition, obviously, to Clockwork Revolution, which to me that is steampunk, BioShock. You know, you got me there day one. They're playing with time travel, all this stuff. Invincible. Again, for those who aren't aware, you know, we were in the room, we were recording, we were, you know, watching in the community. The Great Hargeet was in the background. We didn't actually get to sit the chance to sit and watch this as normal consumers do. So all of my perception is peppered by the guy who basically lost his mind and gave me a huge hug when he saw that Final Fantasy VII remake.
Oh my
was coming.
God, that guy was awesome.
He literally kneeled in front of everyone. And when I say kneeled, I'm talking about he took a knee in front of everyone. And Aaron Greenberg was sitting right there. And so was Jason Ronald right next to him. He took a knee and kissed the sky, raised his hands and thanked his God. And then proceeded to run and give me a huge hug because he just needed a human to connect with. This is the kind of energy we had.
It was amazing, dude. Yeah.
Right. So I know, and I put it up on socials, and I know that some people are like, oh, that game's out. It's an old game. This, that, and the third. My perception was clouded by the energy in the room, and that energy was infectious, bombastic, and just impossible. It was just wild. It was one of the greatest experiences. It was really cool. Again, like you guys, I do also agree that, you know, last year was God tier, man. What they did last year was not meant to be repeated. But by any other metric, pretend last year doesn't exist. This is a 7 out of 5, 8.5. Like it's really, really good. Really good. I loved every game. I really had a great time with it. Again, my only thing is 100%. It is absolutely about that handheld. It's about that handheld. That handheld is epic. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Yes, there are questions. You know, there's a lot of questions, and I've been fielding a bunch of questions in the Discord and all this about, you know, what it could be, what it's not, and there are some valid questions that still need to be answered, pricing and the like, and capabilities and all of this. But by and large, everyone is saying this thing is the best foot forward they could have put. They put the best foot forward on this one. I agree. You know, I think it's awesome that they announced it the way they did. Now I just want them to continue having that conversation with their consumer base. You know, tell them what the price is, tell them what the feature set looks like. You know, from a speeds and feeds perspective, that thing looks amazing. It looks really, really, really good. The question is, what will it cost? Right? What will it cost, and what are some of those unique differentiators? And I'll leave it there. Right?
No. You know what?
This show was hands down amazing.
Before we move on to Nintendo, gentlemen,
okay.
I want to get your thoughts and theories on this. I'll go first to you, UK Sanjay,
Mm-hmm.
and Chad. I want you involved in this. What do you think this thing is going to be priced based on the current pricing?
Boom.
Yes, sir.
Boom. That is a dangerous question to ask me.
We have to ask it. Dangerous or not, we got to ask.
It is a okay. So this is what I did. Okay, and this is, don't do this at home, people, because this is a dumb move. I did it anyway. Okay. I did it anyway because I just needed to have some understanding of what we're looking at, right? And again, this is not science, exact science. This is not tried and true. We were just having fun and we were playing around, right? So I put in, I put into AI, right? You know, what asked AI what I think the price of these devices would be, right? Being that it is a partner device between Xbox and and Asus, right? Being that the market conditions, being that this is a partner device from a console maker and all the build of materials and everything else. I got to tell you, man, the pricing, if the pricing is anywhere close to this, it is going to be, I was about to swear, it's going to be wild. It's going to be very
wild in these streets, is what you're saying, like the kid like to say?
It's going to be wild. So, okay. Let me put my speculation out there, okay? I'll put my speculation out there, and I'm going to be wrong, but if I'm not, you heard it here first, okay? For now, the Ally X, right, costs today $900. Okay. Why does it cost $900? Because what do you call it? Tariff pricing. It was $799, and then they added an extra hundo, right? That's just what they did, right? Similarly, the OG version was $550, and then they added a hundo to that as well. So now it's $650, right? Without, let's just remove tariff pricing out of the mix. Without tariff pricing, I say the new one that replaces these old ones are exactly the same price, $799 and $550.
Okay.
For the biggest dog and the littler dog. Now, why is that wild? That is wild because the hardware you get replacing the original is so much more performant. So much more performant. Yes, you get the same 80 watt hour battery, but because you're moving away from the Z1 Extreme going to the Z2, which is based on Strix Point, you're getting like way more battery life because it's got way more optimizations than even the Z1 does, right? There's just so much in the tank for this hardware. If they hit the same price point, which I think at least they will, if not less, and I say that less part really quietly because that'd be crazy if they did that, but I still think that at least they will replace the new ones with this exact one.
Okay.
Right? So the lowest tier, which means the white one, would be $550. If not, let's add in tariff prices, $650, right? Whereas the high end, the X, would be $799 before tariff and $899 after. Both, which would be insane. I actually, believe it or not, I don't want to say it loudly, but I think that high end would even be cheaper. I think it maybe $750 or something like they are. I hear the pricing is aggressive, right? If you look at the speeds and feeds of the specs that you're looking at, they have kind of cut corners in very interesting ways. So I can see them be aggressive in their pricing because like the lower end spec is basically a pro architectural version of the Steam Deck. So it's not the same exact architecture as the high end one. It's kind of like the Steam Deck Pro, the lower version from an architecture perspective, right? So they're cutting costs by using like older architecture, tried and true architecture, right? They're pushing the envelope by giving you far more performance, but they're cutting costs here and there to save a buck. So I think all of that translates into an unusually aggressive price point that people just raise their eyebrow and go, wow, like very low barrier of entry. I hope I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'll be sad because I want to be right because that means we all benefit from that. So that's my price. That's where I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's $550, and this is all pre tariff price. $550 for the entry point, and $799 for the high end. And of course, since they've already dropped a hundo on each of them, I think that could also happen to the new one as well.
Strong points of view, Hargeet. You're a man of tech. What are your thoughts on this one? Because Kay brings up a lot of really great points, and I'm kind of wondering if they were able, like he said, to shave or cut some corners to make this thing over the original. And I know Cheese is nasty that he's sick of hearing about tariffs. Trust me, brother. So are we. We just want to get back to buying and hardware at the regular prices. What are your thoughts on how expensive or not is this handheld going to be? And of course, there are two versions. There's the little dog, and there's the killer dog, which I want the killer dog. So
yeah. I mean, welcome to the world of the rest of the world that has to deal with, right? Because everybody else has tariffs, so they already always pay more than we do. But as far as the cost, it's hard to tell. It is a partner device. There's a potential that they can leverage some capabilities of Microsoft here, right? That's a possibility. I don't know if Asus is a smaller partner than Microsoft, or if Microsoft is a smaller partner than Asus, because Asus is also pretty big in this world, right? So it's interesting to see. We will see what they do with it. This is a special chip, right? It's a SoC that's designed for this kind of thing. Could they work a partnership deal to make that chip cheaper? It's basically just a cost from AMD as to how much they're going to charge per chip, right? There's also other parts of it that they can maybe get some components cheaper or whatever they do there. I don't know if there's going to be a charge for the OS. That's one way they could cut back costs, right? So we'll see. There's potential there to make it cheaper because, like on a ROG normal, they would still have to pay for a Windows license, for instance. Not that it's going to be a huge amount, but it's an amount, right? So that's going to potentially be something they could just say, hey, we'll just forego that and partner on this device and see if it hits the market correctly, right? So That could be something that could cut a little
Great
bit of
point.
cost. They could look to just reduce the amount of profit, right? So, in a lot of the cases with these consoles, they don't sell at the normal 30% retail rate, right? So normally when you put something in a store, 30% of that retail price goes to the store. That's not what happens with consoles. That would be a lot of money, so they don't do that. So could there be something they work here to make that work, right? That's another potential thing, right? So they could say we're not gonna do the normal 30/70. It's 95/5 or whatever it is, and could Microsoft work that with them? Again, these are all potential options. So we'll see. I don't know realistically how much they could play with it, but if they could play with it, it could be cheaper. It could be something in that $700 range. It could be something in the $600 range for all I know. But again, it just comes down to how they want to play with those numbers, right? So I'm not sure where it'll end up, but again, it is an Xbox, so this is a weird new thing, right? It's all new capability that we really haven't seen too much of in the past. There was it 3DO that kind of had partner devices?
Yes.
But
Yep,
it
it sure did.
Yes.
Again, it's very rare. I don't know if this is gonna if that's really a pattern. Like, that thing was very expensive to begin with.
Dude, that thing was $900 back in the days, bro. It was ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I don't know that that's a model we can follow here. I don't think they do a hey, we're gonna subsidize it thing. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think that those days are over.
Yep, I agree.
But that doesn't mean that they don't have room to negotiate, right? So there's potentials to say we're gonna leverage our partnerships and reduce the per unit price for some of the components that go into it. As I said, there's the retail price and how much percentage goes to the retailer. They could play with that percentage because again, consoles, they don't pay 30%. That's just not, it wouldn't be viable. Those consoles are already sold at loss. So they cut a different deal. So that's a possibility, right? They can play with those margins and see what they can do to make it more effective. They also have to look at the potential for doing anybody else's, right? This is going to be locked to this for now. But will there be something else in the future with a different partner? And then how do they do the same kind of thing with all of these partners? I don't know. It's all fun stuff. But hey, this is the exciting part of this new journey, right? That they're going to be on. But yeah, so I'm not going to put out numbers, but it is possible that they could cut it back. If it's just straight out what it is now, you can expect to pay $900. If it is something that they want to play with and say, hey, we can cut down the margins, we can cut down the cost, we can cut down the retail price, right? Not the retail price, but the retail cut, right? So we can make that happen. They could shrink this a bit and say, all right, we'll get it to a lower level. I don't know what would be in it for Asus if they decide to cut the margin. Margin being the profit per device, right? The amount of profit they make per device. So I'm not sure what would be there for them if unless they get a kickback or something like that, which is possible. I don't know, but or maybe they say, hey, we'll cut out the license cost for Windows, therefore you save that much, so take that out of the profit and we'll call it a day or whatever, right? Something like that. So those are potentials, right? So I can see it. I can see them come down. How much? I don't know, right? What would be crazy is if the X were like 550 and the normal were like 400. That is what the Steam Deck is, right? I think the Steam Deck is 400, right? So if they could match the Steam Deck and say, our lower tier is lower than the Switch 2, that would be an insane thing to do, right?
It would be tier, aggressive as all H. Yeah.
Yeah, and if the higher tier, instead of 450, you're paying 550. And look at the amount of capability we're talking about. You play your entire PlayStation, game library here. You can play your Xbox library here.
So
you can play
one thing,
here. You can play PC.
You need to emphasize how insane that would be, because even at $800 or $900, that the price that I'm saying, if you get a Z2 for that price, that's a steal, bro. That is a huge steal.
It is. If you look at the market right now,
it's $100 right now.
Exactly. The Z2 is a pretty expensive product. Yeah, and this is really working a deal, and they would have to work it to make it say, let's presume because it's got the Xbox logo, maybe they'll sell 5 million units, 10 million units, right? At that kind of rate, they can cut down that per processor, cost per APU cost. These are the things that they have to work through. I don't know, but again, aggressive price, if they can make it work, will sell more units, right? So that's kind of the thing to look at. And that's beneficial for everybody involved, right? So, but yeah, it's an interesting time, right? Now, remind me, okay, I don't think our RDNA 3.5 has the new hardware-based AI upscaling, correct?
No, the
okay,
RDNA
and that is what
3.5
this
does
has.
not, but this has a custom. They added the custom tops to at least the higher end version.
Okay,
the lower end version does not.
Okay, so they do have some potential to do it themselves.
Yes, there's potential for like auto SR or something like that.
Got it.
Implementation in it because they already have the APIs for it specifically for the higher end. But it's notable that the SoC for the lower end does not have those capabilities.
Okay. All right, but either way, it's interesting. We'll see what they do with it. But yeah, I if they want to really compete, if they can make it happen, then having that 400 price point to match the Steam Deck for the lower end model, and then a 550-ish, maybe 600-ish, if they can pull that off for the higher end model, I think that aligns it pretty well. I think 550 would make it a pretty damn impressive deal for what they're giving you for hardware. And then it's just from a consumer perspective, like KSI, that we understand the hardware itself has a lot of oomph and power and all. The consumer doesn't care. They look at, I pay $450 for the Switch, I pay $550 for this.
Yes.
Right? So they have to just make the value judgment of what am I getting with one over the other, and that's what they have to go into the market with.
The best way to analogize that would be you're paying $450 for the Switch. The best they could do, CDPR can get it to run at 720p 40 frames per second for 2 hours. This would do 1080 60 for probably 4. Yeah, because it's got an 80 watt hour battery in it as well.
Yeah, and again, I know that there's people like us who will care about the graphics and the performance. I think the majority of the players just want access. And so they're going to say at 450, I access this. At 550, I access this. I think that's what's going to sell it, right? The fact that you have your entire PC library available to you in a consistent Xbox, a GUI, right? An actual, console-like interface. I think that's going to be the selling point to make it something compelling, right? All these things have done reasonably well. The Steam Deck is certainly in this category outside of, say, the Switch, which is sort of the low-end gaming portable, which is certainly the market leader. If you then look at like the higher end where you can play pretty much all the games, it's the Steam Deck that seems to be the one that's resonating. But it's still, what is it, like 5-6 million, something like that? How many million units is it sold in that range?
So yeah, it's about 5-6 million units. But I would say if you look at the market right now, it belongs to two players, right? And the Steam Deck is a market player, but that's for general PC. But as you can tell, there is a separate market from that. Those are Windows specific PC gamers who need access to Game Pass, and for them. Ally X rules the roost.
ROG is the thing. Yeah, exactly. Right? With all the quirkiness.
Yeah. With all the quirkiness. Right. That's right. That's right. Yes.
And I think, Boom, this could be the beginning of your PC journey.
Yes.
If this new interface comes out and you get to see how it is. And it's like, okay, cool. Now I'm not seeing the desktop. I'm not hitting all these Windows updates. I'm not dealing with all that crap. It just feels like my Xbox. But, it happens to be a PC that has my Steam library, my whatever library I want. Doesn't matter. I can play my PlayStation games here. You might get rid of that damn PlayStation. But
listen, I'm not being slanderous. I said this, and I'm being ultimately serious. Like, if the next again, folks, what's amazing about what we're witnessing or what we have witnessed, and obviously it's not out yet. It is coming out later this year. I would imagine it's coming closer to holiday. This is just tip of spear, right? This is just the entrance into the future that Xbox is driving towards. And obviously, we still have 2 years, and depending on who you talk to about, whether or not it's 20 end of year 26, beginning of 27, where how people play with numbers and the end year numbers, where this console is going to be. I don't think the console is next year, even if it falls into the 2027 start of fiscals, which happens in, I believe, July of next year. That would be the start of 27. Not 26 is going to start and end June 30th, I think. So there are some people saying, "Oh, well, it still can come out next year. It'd be technically 27, financial." Listen, I don't care where it winds up showing up, whether it be 26 or 27. But if the next Xbox is what this is, and it gives people like me who do not want to tinker, do not want to see a Windows, a Windows backdrop, does not want to have to update drivers or use a mouse and keyboard for anything, and simply have the ability to play this like a console, then I'm not going to need a PlayStation 6. I won't buy one. I will buy my games from Steam like everybody else. And I got to tell you something. I know that we're a little long on this topic, and I know it's a little bit, it's been side loaded left and right, but I really do think that what Xbox has presented to the gaming industry might have forced Sony's hand to fast track what they're doing with third party publishing. I know that people are like, "Oh no, you're never going to get Spider-Man." Well, I mean, Destin Gary literally set the internet on fire when he showed Spider-Man on this thing, and everyone came for the poor guy. But that's the truth. You're going to be able to play Spider-Man on this thing, and it's going to say Xbox. I mean, that's the reality. And you know something? People were raging in the streets over that. So it's just, that is the reality. So I really do think,
so good.
I'm not saying that there was an emergency fiscal meeting at Sony Interactive Entertainment. I'm just saying that when Xbox did this, they might have forced Sony's hand into what they're going to do. Because you got to remember, right now, it's PS5 and some PC stuff. No day and date PC stuff, right? We did see that with Helldivers, but that wasn't theirs. I mean, that was, that was a partner deal. And Arrowhead has walked away from Sony, and that's definitely not a good thing. But let me just pose this last question, and then we'll move on to Nintendo. And I'm going first to Hargeet. Do you think this incredible future of all walls being knocked down by this thing and the potential, does this future that has been presented to us by Xbox and Asus force Sony's hand to make moves faster or more different than what they're doing now?
Look, I would have thought they should already have done so. They've made some changes at the top as far as the leadership. They're still kind of entrenched with some of it. There's certainly some direction changes that seem to be happening, right? Is it Lost Soul Aside is coming to PC day and date, right? Now, granted,
Yes.
That's a sort of third party, second party, whatever you want to call it, right? It's published by
Sony
PlayStation.
Interactive, yeah.
But, they are, in general, when they do those deals, like Death Stranding 2, for instance, it is locked to the console for some stupid reason, right? So understood that, of course, if it's a multiplayer game, it makes sense, right? But this is a single player, whatever, campaign game, and it's coming day and date to PC. They're starting to kind of do that with other games as well. And so you could say like a Horizon, for instance, that's not a live service game that launched on multiple platforms, right? So they're starting to get there, right? And they're taking sort of the second party deals and doing that. Eventually, they're going to need to move to that with their first party deals. And, like the key to them is the metrics. If they can see the telemetry of, if we release at the same time, do I get better sales on the the other platform or platforms, depending on how they want to look at it, right? And if they are killing that a little bit because the enthusiasm and hype has gone down after a year and a half, 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is up to them. So ultimately, they can look at the metrics that Xbox has and say, well, look, they're keeping their studios up. They're for the most part, they haven't really had to close a lot of things. They got a whole variety of games, and their showcase is just game after game after game. Their model seems to be working. What is it that's different? First of it, of course, they have Game Pass. Second of it is that they day and date that to PC, right? And now it's day and date to other platforms, right? Again, they just don't seem to care where it is. They just want to get engagement, right? And if you want to engage on their platform, cool. You kind of get that messaging at the sort of the Sony level, but not at the PlayStation level quite yet. I don't know when that might or if it will ever change. But I think for their sustainability, they're going to need to kind of, figure that out. They're still trying to like go down the live service hole, and I don't know how well that's going to ever work for them. We will see. It has certainly not been a fruitful, journey for them. They've had the one lucky shot with Helldivers, and granted, that was an existing game. They made a sequel. It worked great, but outside of that, the Bungie purchase, which I thought would have been great, it turned out to be this massive fail. Yeah. And I have very low expectations for Marathon. I don't think anybody in the industry thinks it's going to go anywhere. But we'll see. I mean, maybe it just works out. Good luck to them. But that is kind of where they are. Fair Games. I'd be surprised that game even comes out. I
don't think it is. I think it's going to be, the studio is going to be closed and that game's going to be canceled.
So that is kind of where they are. And they're like, oh, we want to still keep doing it. I'm like, well, okay, how much, good money are you going to keep throwing away? Like at some point you kind of just have to give up on it. But the problem was, the reason they needed that was to be able to make these multi-$100 million games and sustain them. And they that's from them. That's not from me. That's from Jim Ryan, who's like said, I need Call of Duty money to make my games. Right. That's their world. That's how they wanted to sustain their model. Well, okay, if that's not there, then what, right? Thank God they still have Call of Duty for another, 8 years, whatever it is, right? They at least have it for that long. I doubt that Xbox would ever take it away. Their platform agnostic, model is going to continue, I'm sure, right? But look, if they want something to replace that and come up with another funding source, they're going to have to figure that out. And so, again, I don't know what that pattern would look like if they don't just decide to say, all right, to hell with it. We have to just go day and date. And is there some world in which they start saying, oh, well, there's an Xbox device and therefore we're going to put a little PSN login requirement and it's going to lock you away from being able to, dude, if they start playing those games, Valve will throw their asses out of their store.
They'll lose. Yeah. So
I don't know that that's a good plan either. So, they are in a bind, right? So they kind of need to realize where the market is. I've been saying the right path for them, whether they like to hear it or not, is your next box really should just be an Xbox. You should just do the same thing, license the same goddamn Xbox UI, let Microsoft take the software hit. You do the hardware that you do, right? They do good job at hardware. Keep doing that. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. And then just take the same freaking thing. You get all of the Windows goodness. You get a Xbox controller, a controller-based UI. Doesn't have to be an Xbox controller, man. Any controller you like, right? And then you get access to everything that Windows, like EA Play Pro is there. You get Game Pass. You get Ubisoft Plus. You get your own games. You get like. What would you not like here? By the way, there's emulation for all of their freaking past library, which they still can't do on their freaking hardware. But you can get a PS1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. All those games work on freaking PC. So you would just get all that, right? So it just seems like the better path is, why resist it? Just go there, right? You're not getting yourself out of the market. You're just changing the way the market works for you, and you differentiate on your hardware, which has been the differentiator for them anyway. And then it was their content. Right. And their content, is kind of, I don't know where it is. So if that's not going to be the differentiator, and it's going to be tough for them to compete with Xbox, then maybe it's time to look at it from a hardware perspective and say, this is what we need to do to say, we're relevant. The other option they could do is partner with Valve and say, we're going to bring Steam to our platform as well. How they work that model, I don't know. Because the main thing that they would lose there is, people would buy the game on Steam and they wouldn't get the money. That's the thing they live off of. And Microsoft doesn't need that because they have games that they can make money off of. PlayStation kind of needs that like third-party store money. So it's an interesting place to be in. I don't know how that's all going to work. But yeah, I don't know. Will they change? I think market will force them to change, especially as like we kind of rescind out Now we still have decades, I know, but as we rescind out of the market and the next generations come in, they don't care for this shit. They really just don't care for this console war crap. They just want to be able to play their game wherever they want to play it. And that is a world that Microsoft has fully adopted. And that is a world that Sony is kind of adopting. But they kind of just need to go the next step and say, all right, to hell with it. And Nintendo is saying, no, we're still locked down. I don't know how much longer that keeps working for them. We'll see. But eventually that may be a problem for them too. But that's kind of like where my thoughts are on that specific piece.
No, great points. So, okay, before we get, and again, the Nintendo topic isn't going to be massive. So we're going to get out of here probably like a pinch after the 90-minute mark. But I do want to get your thoughts on this regarding the fast tracking of Sony's plans, because this does literally change the game. And I'm not trying to be facetious or even funny. It does change the fact that this thing is an Xbox. It literally says that it's an Xbox in its title. Yes, it's a partner device. I personally think that this may be the reason, if this works out well for them, why they don't need their own, manufactured Xbox. Because if this thing does exactly what they were going to make, then there's no reason for it. Let Asus pick up the development and just partner with them, and they split it 50-50, and there you go. Do you think that this, because this is really kicking in the door of the industry. The industry has been changed, and it has been changing for years. But this really does change the boundaries and the borders of how gaming and exclusives work. But what are your thoughts on that, real quick?
Well, honestly, I think that if Sony didn't see this coming, they're not doing their job. I'm pretty confident that they saw this coming as well, because for a while now it's been this game of Game Pass on PC has been this world where people just have been dealing with Windows. So obviously Windows is either going to get better or they're going to find a different solution, right? And so that's been a thing that they've been telegraphing for some time now. What Sony specifically will do, I think, oddly enough, they might follow suit. We've already heard rumors that there is potential of them releasing their own handheld, right? And let's not get it twisted. I really appreciate them when they come out with their handheld bag. They've been doing pretty great work historically about that, right? So they are the ones that created the Vita and the PSP and the rest of them. So they at least have a fundamental understanding of how comfortable and reliable hardware should be. So if they were to join the market, I'd be excited to see their output as well, right? But honestly, I think if this thing is successful, you will see shortly after Sony will follow suit. They already have a PC brand, right? They have an end zone PC brand. They just do. They already release headsets. They release accessories. They release standard PC accessories. And they always have. Well, ever since that brand was released, they have been doing that, right? So is there a world where they partner with MSI, end zone MSI, and they also have a cool console-like UI, and it has a Sony-based launcher? There's a world that could happen.
Yeah.
Could happen. Heck, there's a world where you can see them partner with Microsoft of all people and get their launcher on their store. Because remember, this thing is ultimately going to be Windows, not a special flavor of Windows. Windows. So you have to have everyone accounted for. If you don't, now you're quote unquote, what is it? Your let's quote one of the regulatory bodies. You're foreclosing on your rivals at that point. So making sure all stores are represented is a mandate, not even a request, right? You want to make sure that every store is represented, because otherwise, that's you saying that, hey, they put their store on Front Street on Windows, which is the monopoly operating system. So PlayStation makes an app store. Why wouldn't it be on this device? Why couldn't it be installed on this device? This is the ultimate solution.